Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. We can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you gotta get spotted. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun.
Good morning, everybody. It is the 15th of Wednesday. Yesterday was an interesting day. Some pretty big moves, especially for us in the treasuries, way further than I thought that we would go. And we got some data coming out today, too, that we need to pay attention to. So let's go to the chart here, volume profile. So here in the E-mini, I have to say, I mean, most of these days you've been getting like pretty good bounces into the close, right? Yesterday, oh no, it was so sad. And look, overnight action, pretty down as well. Now, we had some Chinese data come out overnight. Maybe they were kind of front running that. I don't know. But it just looks really dismal. And it looks like the coronavirus lockdowns have really impacted China. And I don't think that it's over there either. You know, there's probably more pain to come in China. So, because most areas haven't been infected. And even if you're vaccinated, you still get lots of cases. So here's the move in the treasuries. You can see pretty big move. I guess in the 10-year, in the end, it ends up being like the top of the range. There could be some more upside, but I just felt like this move was just crazy. I mean, we had the initial CPI, and I thought, well, okay, maybe now they'll turn around and go back down. No, because then we started to get the equity weakness, and that pushed us up even higher. And you can see how the rates flattened in the end. I mean, initially, there was a pretty big spike. Well, come over here into the ZB. Initially, you could see there was a little bit of a spike, but then in the end, they flattened, and they've flattened even more. So the 30-year is really moving. We're now down to 1.8. Yeah, so pretty significant there. And here's the thing, if I could just come back here for a second. There's been a lot of individual things that I'm like, that's not going to affect the taper. Like, I really think that it's important that the Federal Reserve tapers those asset purchases as quickly as possible, because it's been creating distortions, and maybe it's causing more trouble than it's been benefiting. But the thing is like, okay, the bad jobs report maybe on its own might not do it. The economic weakness in China on its own might not do it. The CPI report being tame on its own might not do it. But all of those things together might do it. Now, I'm still seeing, I haven't gotten a very good feel for all of the analysts, but I have seen some analysts saying that it doesn't matter anymore, and other analysts saying that they're going to push it back. So we'll see. We haven't gotten any Federal Reserve meeting members. I think we're in like they're not allowed to comment period. So we'll see. Oil is looking pretty good. You know what? We need to add in here, duplicate a new tab. We need NG here, man. NG. Natural gas. Because natural gas has been on a tear, and another big move overnight here, right? So there is a real concern about the winter is going to be very cold, and Europe is going to have trouble paying for the heating. And so natural gas prices are going up big time, and that's a big problem for Europe. Okay. Gold and silver. So gold and silver did move up off of that news. Fairly constrained, though, I'd say. The silver is still pretty blech. Silver just not looking so good, huh? And here we've got copper. Copper, it's not really doing anything all that interesting. And we come back over here, look at some currencies. Okay, dollar still relatively strong. Off that news, they weakened substantially, but I mean, look, we're still above 92, so that's still relatively strong. And the Bitcoins did move up a little bit, but they're still kind of trailing at the bottom of this range after, what was it? I forget what even caused this one. Oh, yeah. Coinbase. That was the Coinbase not being able to do their stable coin thing. Yeah, and then this was the Walmart scam. So we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens over there. Okay, so I wasn't even showing you guys those charts. What was I? That's funny. Oil, gas, gold, silver, copper. A Bitcoin. For prosperity. We gotta show that for prosperity, even if you guys don't care. Okay, so please explain what lowering of the yield curve means. Well, you mean flattening. So when I have it over here, and we look at like our 30-year treasury, okay, you see these charts down at the bottom, they're spreads. And the way that I have it set up is that when it moves up, we are steepening, and when it moves down, we are flattening. Okay, so this has to do with what rates think, what markets think rates are going to do over the short term versus the long term, right? So as they're flattening, it kind of suggests that they think that the Federal Reserve is going to have to keep rates low, essentially, right? Really what it means, though, is that the rates for the 30-year are decreasing less than the rates for the 5-year. Mainly because the rates for the 5-year are already crazy low, right? So if the Federal Reserve were to start increasing rates again, we should expect to see those rates move up in the 30-year a lot more aggressively, at least at first. So what you'll see is it will steepen at first, and then once we get into more of a mid-cycle, then you will see it start to flatten, where the short-term rates will rise more than the long-term rates. So right now, it's like you want to be trading in the 30-year, but when it gets later, you want to be trading in the 5-year. Okay, so we get import-export prices here at the bottom of the hour, some Canadian numbers, and we get manufacturing production, industrial production. It seems like there was something else that we were going to get, though. I'm not seeing it listed. I don't know. When I was reading through my news briefings, it made it sound like there was more significant stuff to come, but maybe I'm wrong. I'm just going to check Forex Factory here. Vlad says nice pullback. What, in the E-mini? Well, look at these rates, man. They just don't look so hot right now. Yep. Oh, Empire State Manufacturing Index. That's what we get at the bottom of the hour. That's important. Okay. Okay, which is quite a bit better than expected. 34.3 versus 17.9. Let's see what they do here. Looks like the E-mini likes that. Yeah, that was the bottom of the hour news. Okay, so the rates did increase there by about a basis point. Hold on a second here. So we're going to change a few settings on my robot here. So the last limit should be a lot higher than that. Skip the break even. I was trying to work on doing the break even yesterday, but it just did not work out the way that I thought it should. So, but I did optimize it a little bit. Now let's see here. I don't know if I want to take something right now. I might want to come and get short of this, but the tweet from Nicki Minaj. Yeah, I don't know if we should talk about that. That's probably dangerous to talk about. They were super upset about that. Like Nicki Minaj was like their mouth, you know, the celebrity, top of the celebrity pile, and now she's gonna get thrown to the wayside, man. She shouldn't have said that. She should not have said that. Okay, let's see here. Let's check this link that Alligator gave us, right? There's a good amount of stuff. How much? Sign up now. Is it free? It sounds like it's free. Come back. Our strategists focus on global market rates and derivatives, their drivers, and wider influences. We also cover rates, regulatory reform, and money markets. Yeah. Rate sparks September seasonality. There is a well-defined tendency for bond supply to rise at the start of September and for yields to do the same. Yeah. Old story. That one didn't work out. That is some good stuff. Uzi says, everything is dangerous to talk about. Let's just be quiet for the party's sake. A planet can crash to 4410 and then pivot up. So let's do the E-mini. Let's do the E-mini again. A poll. Create a poll. ES opening range. Up, down. Will we have another sell on the open like we've had the past, I don't know, week? It's been a week. Nikki's friend with the big problem is a really person out there. He's not going to like this attention, especially with the news media begins to search for him because this is too good not to check. So you know what happens? Like it's I have to be careful about how I present this because it's not like it's going to sound like I'm saying Nicki Minaj is involved in something nefarious, which is not the case. But I am comparing her behavior to behavior from people that have done something nefarious. The thing is that regular people, the pressures of fame are very difficult. And a lot of regular people come into that situation by chance and really are not prepared for it. I wonder how far they're going to go off of this New York manufacturing index number being so high. because they're pushing down just as hard as they pushed up yesterday. But and I really want to get involved. I mean, I feel like I could be going short here, but I don't actually know what the flow is gonna. I don't really have a way to predict what the flow is gonna do here, so I need to just watch. Anyways, people will come upon fame by chance and not be prepared for it. And like the thing is you get in this world where all of a sudden everybody loves you.
Robots enabled?
Yes, they are. You get in this world where it's like everybody loves you, nobody questions you, and you start to think that you're God's gift to the world, you know? And when that happens, you start to do dumb stuff. You start to do dumb stuff. And so I saw my wife was watching this documentary about was a multi-level marketing company that sold leggings called Rulero or something like that. And it looked to me like what happened here was you had a narcissist. I think that the wife is probably a narcissist, and but a regular person came across fame from this multi-level marketing strategy, making them so much money, and it went to their head. So then when their business inexperience was exposed, because they made all of these promises to make all of this product, and they didn't actually have the infrastructure or money to really make that much, instead of coming out and saying, okay, like we screwed up and here's where things happened and everything like that, they just hide it. And anybody that spoke up, they just would hide it, right? Because it's like that's how a lot of these scams start, is you get a person that they just don't want to face their failure. They've had success and they don't want it to be a failure, you know? And so when I see celebrities do these sorts of things, I feel like it's the same sort of a thing as like Nicki Minaj did not grow up, you know, being taught how to deal with the media or anything. She didn't necessarily have to live through the whole thing about like over years and years and years in their early development, having to deal with media and everything. And so she ends up taking a position on something. She's a music artist, so her opinion on COVID doesn't really matter to anybody. So just don't say anything about it. If you don't really have to, you don't say anything unless it's going to be beneficial to you. How is that beneficial to you? It's not. It's different for me because, you know, our analysis is the direction of the economy. I guess we say a bunch of things that we don't necessarily have to say, do we? But it's really about the economic impact. There they are at 16.5, 133.16. I could maybe try and pick a tick here in the 10-year. It's kind of a difficult one. Like maybe if I could get 17.5, but you're probably not going to get filled. There you go, Rulero, the Untold True Story, Part 1. Part 1. It was like a Netflix series. You know what? As another thing, though, I don't think, at least I've never seen anything from Nicki Minaj that suggests that she's a narcissist or a psychopath. It seems like very often these multi-level marketing scams are run by narcissists or psychopaths, right? The psychopath is the one that he's running the scam. Their intention was always to run the scam.
Traders, good morning. Please take a second to hit the like button. Thanks, traders.
Thank you. And so that works. I'm really happy with this feature, aren't you? I think it's working pretty well. Anyways, man, anytime it's the narcissist though, that's the one that like they don't intend to be a scammer, but it's like their ego just pulls them into it. Just pulls them into it. I'm reading Twitter here. Oh my gosh, did you guys read this other thing? Yeah, it's kind of funny, the world that we're in right now, because the politics don't appear to be as influential to the markets at the current time as they were, which is kind of sad for me because I enjoyed that. But so we haven't had as much politics to talk about. But there was probably one of the most significant political stories we've had in a while, where it basically comes out that, I mean, we knew at the time that there was, remember after the January 6th fiasco, there were this talk, like Nancy Pelosi was saying, like, if Trump tries to launch a nuclear weapon, we'll stop him and things like that. Well, apparently there was a general that was kind of behind all of this, ran a couple of meetings and so forth. And apparently the people that attended those meetings are willing to testify against him. And oh yeah, he called up China and said, hey, if Donald Trump decides to attack you, I'll warn you. So that's a pretty big deal. Like, I could be wrong, but that could be a treason trial. No? General Miley, chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff, IJS. It is. And it's something that they're going to have to, they can't ignore. Like, there's going to be a tendency to want to ignore it, to say, oh, it was a special circumstance, so give him. But no, like, that kind of behavior cannot be tolerated in the least bit, because anybody does that can undermine the entire military structure, right? Yeah. Yep. And he was in cahoots with Pelosi. I'm really wondering how that one's going to turn out. I don't think that it will have an impact on the markets necessarily, but it is probably flavor that you should be aware of. You know what I mean? There's a transcript of it, huh? Yeah, because what's gonna like the January 6th thing is something that's important for you to know if you're a trader, right? Because if you don't understand what happened on January 6th and the way that the two sides interpret what happened, with the left thinking that it was like they were trying to overthrow the government, and with the right thinking that it was just a mild protest inside of the Capitol and that the police overreacted, then you don't really understand a lot of the kind of political undertones that are going on. But this thing with Miley is something that could change that political undertone. Especially on the Republican side. Like, I was seeing some people, I don't know if it was Red State or if it was an actual politician, but they were saying, like, we have to pursue this even if that means that we aren't able to do it until 2024. But explosive, yes, it's a very, and especially if it truly results in a trial, like, it seems like it's maybe a little bit borderline, but I think you could make a treason case off of that, yeah? I think you can make a treason case out of that. So, yeah. That case is just crazy to me. I mean, at the time, I was really mad that everybody was talking about, like, oh, Donald Trump is going to start a war in his last, few days as president or whatever, last month as president. And I'm just like, guys, stop it. This is ridiculous. You're just creating a bunch of noise and political drama for no reason, because nothing's going to happen. Nothing did happen. You're crazy because you think that Donald Trump is crazy. But now it's just like, ugh. Now that you know that he was actually talking to the Chinese, that's the thing that like really pushes it over the edge, where like nobody can defend him. So I'm interested to see how that turns out. Now, Wynn also pointed out that California voted to keep Newsom in office, which, by the way, they sure called that early, don't you think? Now, the Republicans are crying foul and saying that there are like voter irregularities. I was reading a story this morning on Reddit where they're like, there were no voter irregularities. And it's like, what? Well, we haven't seen any vote. Okay. I can go all over the place and I can find you posts of people reporting irregularities saying that they went to vote and the system told them that they had already voted. That was the most common one that I saw. But I'm going to say, based off of the polling that we had and everything else, even if there probably was some scattered instances of voter fraud or something like that in California, probably didn't change the end result. It seems to me that Larry Elder was not able to make the case that he would be better than Newsom to the voters there. Do you think, though, that Trump should have adopted better messaging and demeanor? You ain't gonna oust a commie in California. What do you mean by a DNA indicator? I have a swing indicator that I would like to have turned into a DNA indicator. I'm not quite sure what you mean by that. You're not talking about like the ribbons, are you? You hit your target, huh? You went short off of that, huh? Impressed. I'm still sitting here like wondering if I even want to touch it. Okay, if you send me an email, I forget. I have my prices. I have my price somewhere, depending on how many hours it will be. So it'd probably be between $50 and $100. I think that I was. Oh well, actually, it could be more than that. I think that I have to wait. Let me yeah, that's right. So right now, since it's, kind of like a really small thing, it's just $50 an hour. So maybe max, it's really complicated and ends up being 4 hours and be $200, but can't give a price after watching a video. But if it's just like a swing indicator's already there and we're just drawing stuff, that's probably only $50, $100, right? I'm willing to give Miley the benefit of what doubt? There's under what scenario is it appropriate to talk to the Chinese like that and go outside of the chain of command? Under what scenario do you give him the benefit of the doubt? To prevent a war? No, that's not how it works. That's not how it works. What if Donald Trump had a legitimate reason to launch a nuclear weapon in that situation? Like, I don't know, man. It's not your place to do that. If you really feel that way about it, what you do is you resign and you notify Congress. You don't tell the Chinese. I understand where you're coming from. But I'm just saying that's not the way it works. If you ever get in that situation, don't do that. Okay, that would be really, really bad. Resign and notify Congress. Bottom sign of yesterday's topside distribution prop that trade. We got some up space to fill. You think so? Let me come back and let me see if I can understand what you're saying here. 07, sure. What about in ZN? ZN, it's a low. Although I would say that somewhere around 15, 16 was kind of like a turning point of sorts. Like, oh, actually it was 12. 12 was kind of like, that was the CPI, and then the rest of it was like, came after the equity weakness, right? Dave says I won't. Okay, good deal. Yeah, I wish I knew what you meant by a DNA indicator. I haven't heard that before. Okay, so like my cord here is twisted and it's like driving me crazy. I guess we're doing it like that. What would Congress do about it? Well, Congress can do a lot of things about it, because remember that the military serves at the reports to the civilian government. He needs some time in a cell. I mean, almost certainly he will get some time in a jail. Yeah, but I really wonder how that doesn't end up being treason. Are you all right? No, I'm feeling pretty okay. So I think on Monday, remember on Monday I was really, really tired and everything. I think that what happened was I did not realize that I had not taken my what is the brand name for Strattera? I didn't take my Strattera on Sunday. So then when I took it on Monday, I was getting that norepinephrine reuptake inhibited, and that was what was screwing me up, and it made me feel a little sleepy. But now we're over that. By the way, I had a great workout on Monday. Got through the whole workout. I was really strong. You were talking about California. But if Congress is politically compromised and would need to do a long, drawn-out trial process, that may go very well. Now, I don't think that you would have to do a trial. I think that in a situation like that, Congress would say, no, we don't want Donald Trump to launch a nuclear weapon, and they would pass some law or do something that would affect him. I haven't had a workout since COVID, really? Larry's got no chance. Yeah, well, I think that they've already called it, right? Like that's a problem, is that it really looks to me like Larry Elder did not make his case very well. So here's a problem with a race like this. Something to pay attention to in the future is, especially with the way that California does them. It happened really fast, don't you think? It seems like it was only a month or two ago that they were picking who their front runner was going to be and all that sort of stuff. And in California, they allow freaking everybody to run, which is ridiculous. But so you kind of get into this place where people don't have a lot of time to form opinions, and uninformed voters, people that don't care and don't follow the news very much, become very easy to manipulate in that situation. And they threw all of their dirty tricks against Larry Elder. Like some of the stuff that I saw about Larry, it just seemed so, or not seemed, I mean, they really were just so absolutely ridiculous. Good morning, Christopher. They're saying that he was the face of white supremacy. He's a black guy. Okay. So you know that's kind of some extremist talk there, saying that he's a white supremacist. But here's the thing. If you're an uninformed California voter that doesn't care, do you know that Larry Elder is black? No, you don't know that. And then you hear that he's the face of white supremacy. You know what I mean? So they threw all of the dirty tricks at Larry Elder, and he didn't fare very well because they were looking pretty good. They were looking pretty good for a while. Like polling wise, it was looking close until they really started going after Larry Elder, and then he declined. Like that's when Newsom got up 60%, and what they're getting from the tabulations this morning matches up with the polling. I'm saying it's probably the case that Newsom was never really at risk, even if people in the state are really unhappy with him. I don't think Miley was a traitor. He was out of line. I'm not sure. I don't think I know the law well enough to say in this instance. I'm going to be doing a lot of research about it to see if I can say if he was if that's counts as being a traitor or not. Because there's kind of this line between what is giving aid and support to our enemies, and who counts as our enemies, Well, on the plus side, what more could Newsom screw up? I don't know. The stream is buffering? Well, I'm not skipping frames here. Let's check over here. It says I have an excellent connection. The current evidence suggests that it may just be you. But we'll keep an eye on that. Promising to countermand the president's orders given to the military seems like treason to me. Yeah, I mean, it does to me, but I don't know, man. I don't know. I'm no expert in Elder, but a black person. No, see, this is, I think that this comes down into like, the way that the left has mutated definitions of things to the point where they literally have no meaning anymore. So like, so Keller said, a black person could be the face of white supremacy if he is some prop candidate purposely picked to appear as diverse, but whose policies are anything but. So basically what he's saying is if a politician comes in, like here's how I interpret that. If a politician doesn't support the policies that I like, then he's a white supremacist. This is absolutely ridiculous. Okay, now if he was promoting policies that said that white people are better than black people or something like that, then he would be then that would be the face of white supremacy. But he never said anything like that. It's absolutely ridiculous and frankly immoral to be calling him a white supremacist. But you know what? Those tricks work. Remember this, okay, with politics, because so many people want to do it. I remember I was working on a campaign. I forget whose campaign it was, but I was working on a campaign. And, I was saying dirty politics works. Dirty politics works because that politician was having some dirty politics thrown at him. And the campaign manager, he told me his story because he went to the University of Utah for political science, right? and he got like a master's in political science, I think it was. And so for his dissertation or whatever it is that you have to write, he did his research about whether dirty politics works, because he felt that dirty politics were bad and that you shouldn't do them, and that they don't work. And his research basically proved that it works. He didn't want to believe it, but the research was abundantly clear that it's extremely effective, and it is. It really, I mean, it kind of depends on the trick and the situation and everything. But remember, dirty politics works. And this whole thing about calling a politician racist, even if he really isn't, like they tried to call Mitt Romney racist and misogynistic and all of those sorts of things. It was just absolutely ridiculous to say about Mitt Romney. Now after the fact, it's past the campaign, and I think that he's a little bit more himself in the Senate. It's ridiculous to say any of those things about him, but they tried to push it on him. And the only reason that one didn't really stick on him was because they had a grandson that was adopted that was black. You gotta understand, white progressives have very low standards for their non-white counterparts, so when a non-white candidate comes around telling non-white voters that they're capable, it glitches the entire white progressive mind and triggers their latent racism. Maybe. If the assumption is being conservative is now racist, I don't know. Well, that's what they're trying to say, though. That's what they're trying to say. That's the funny thing about it. You gotta understand, like, what are the driving factors behind the different parties, right? For the Republican Party, at least right now, the largest driving factor is that they want to be left alone. Okay. But another driving factor is their religious beliefs. It very much is. Their religious beliefs and beliefs that I would say are religious in nature about the country and the significance of this country and the Constitution and the rights and the Bill of Rights and things like that, right? Those are like the biggest driving factors on the right now. What are the biggest driving factors on the left? The biggest driving factors on the left are, one, preserving liberty rights. That used to be what the Democrat Party was about. And there's still a large contingent of people that believe that. They really are there. It's just that they're having to deal with this other side, which is that their driving factor is anti-Christianity and pro-communism, which kind of come hand in hand. But they're coming through. And so there's definitely this whole thing that is like, okay, we're going to push communism, and anything that isn't in favor of what we want as communism is racist, right? Because they gave up on the class warfare thing in America a long time ago. They realized that in America, with the way that our system is set up, that saying that you're the underclass and the rich elites are taking advantage of you is like, in America, that doesn't work, because we don't say, oh, well, then that means that we need to have a revolution and kill them all, which is what the Bolsheviks would say, right? No, that we say, well, we can do better, we can elect better people, and we can get better policy, and we can fix these problems, right? So they changed more recently to trying to focus on racism instead, that there needs to be a communist revolution to create racial equality. Right. And so they kind of play that line where it's like, they know that this particular idea that there is conflict between races really triggers people, because that's just like people's natural tendency, and so they use it. So again, it's dirty politics, but they 100% they do it. And Republicans 100% do the dirty politics on the other side, which is safety, which is kind of funny because it kind of contradicts a lot of the things that Republicans believe, but but Republicans seem to be the ones that are willing to do just about anything to protect themselves against outside threat. Virus, not such a big deal, but any kind of outside threat, it's like they'll let you do anything. I think the anti-Christian thing is not really true. Buttigieg and Biden campaigned on their Christian. Well, I don't know about that one. I guess you're right that Buttigieg did kind of try to hold his Christianity front and center, but it didn't really work, did it? I don't think it really worked. Biden, I don't know, man. I'm not convinced that he's actually religious in any sense of the term. Conflating class warfare with racial grievance issues. The majority of U.S. voters are white. Effective strategy is accusations of racism, ingrained racism, no escaping it. Yeah. And that apparently white liberals are really susceptible to it right now for some reason. I don't know what causes that, but there's something. I think another really big driving factor, I wouldn't say that this is like at the heart of their ideologies, but it does kind of explain why a lot of the left behaves the way that they do and the right behaves the way that they do, is that the left is on social media more and is more susceptible to the messages that they see on social media. And so particularly in the age of Instagram, I think that this is going away, but particularly in the age of Instagram, it was all about go and make a post that is really virtuous because everybody will upvote it. Because yes, I agree with that idea too. And so everything came about trying to prove to the rest of society that you are a great person, right? Now that TikTok has taken over, it's going away. You notice, right? Because nobody gives a crap on TikTok. The platform, it's different. Anyways, I'm getting a little bit off track here, but NASDAQ trader asked a real question. Do quants day trade? Who makes more money and who has more competition, machine learning or quants? Well, so when you ask some of these questions, I kind of feel like you're trying to draw these lines where they like don't exist, right? It's not like the difference between quants and, there's different strategies, right? And there are tools that are more or less effective with those strategies, right? One strategy is market making and arbitrage, right? And that is very different from more of a hedge fund strategy, which tends to be a little bit more higher time frame, right? So both those higher time frame hedge fund strategies and the short time frame high frequency trading market making strategies can utilize machine learning in their strategies, right? Well, I think I'm just saying there's literally only one atheist person in government right now. That's Kristen Sienma, who is basically a joke to us. Hold on a second. The squawk is saying something. Well, like the thing is it's not about whether a politician is religious or not, right? It has to do with pushing back against religious cultural norms. And there are plenty of politicians, and I would put Joe Biden in that camp, that very outwardly profess to be religious, but then when you look at their actual policies and everything that they say, they are to push against cultural Christianity. That basically the purpose of those ideas or the reason why I think that they support them is because they don't want that to be the cultural norm. They don't want Christianity to be the cultural norm. They want secularism to be the cultural norm. Right? Quants are kind of programmers who code for traders. Well, like the funny thing is that the term quant isn't very well defined, is it? At least it seems to me that it's not very well defined. It seems like the term quant came about to say that they're using computers and technical data, but to differentiate it from technical analysis. But then since no quant will ever reveal what their strategies are, we don't actually know what it entails. They are analysts. Here's the thing. I think that like a market making strategy is important to understand. I think that a hedge fund strategy is important to understand, but I think that retail traders make the mistake of thinking those strategies are important to understand because I can implement them myself and that's how I'm going to be profitable, is I'm going to use their strategy. And I think no. What you are able to do as a retail trader, and the game that you have to play as a retail trader, because you are small and you have a limited amount of capital primarily, and also because of the limitations in the data that you have access to, you have to play a different game from the pros, just period. And so what the pros think, it's not necessarily applicable to you. Like the way that the pro does it, it's not necessarily applicable to you. That makes sense? Okay. Like you're not going to do high frequency trading. This is kind of one of the things that's really interesting about Gary Norton's course, is that they're doing market making and arbitrage essentially, but he's kind of taking it from a perspective of, okay, like the robots are out there and they've taken all of this and that. So here's what's left for you, and here's how you can try and catch a piece of it, right? Right. But the approach that Gary does is very different from what the quants do, and it's almost kind of like this lost knowledge that disappeared when the robots took over market making, right? Well, yeah, because they compete with you. So that means you want to understand their strategy, but just don't confuse it with implementing their strategy, right? With that one, the thing that I would kind of just keep in mind is that because they're relying a lot on machine learning, they could make mistakes, and especially if it's an unusual situation. If it's an unusual situation that the robot doesn't have anything to compare it to, you might have the ability to come in and say, okay, based on X, Y, and Z, this is the kinds of flows that we should expect to see. And the robot can't do that. So here's the other set of numbers. U.S. industrial production, capacity utilization, kind of sounds like they're all in line, except for manufacturing output. Oh, I didn't see Keller's comment that people would rather vote for a literal jihadi than an atheist. That might be the case. So this is something else, is that people are naturally distrustful of somebody that is too mechanical and not emotional, right? Because that could signify psychopathy, So especially when a person like me comes in and they say, well, we should make all of our trades based on available evidence, you know, and they already have these strongly held beliefs about technical analysis that are practically religion to them. That are practically religion to them, then yeah, they're very suspicious, and it's very hard to convince them. Doesn't mean they can't know the set of rules that accumulate in a decision. I'm kind of wondering what it is that he's trying to get at. I feel like that he has a specific question in mind for a strategy, but he doesn't want to reveal it, so he's kind of dancing around it. Taleb has just been posting quotes the past few days, and this quote is, "It's lacking in critical thinking to think that studying philosophy will improve your critical thinking." Nasdaq Trader says HHH, sorry. Yes. So maybe I was right. That's okay. Man, I really need to blow my nose. Hold on a second. Let me come over here. American Christianity says all Muslims are radicals, and since I think American Christianity is twisted, I don't follow what you're getting at. Now, what is your definition of radical? Because I'll tell you, here's my understanding of it is that all Muslims believe that America will be a Sharia law country in the future. Yeah. Like the teaching of the Quran is that it will take over the whole world. That all countries that the whole world will be united under Sharia law. Right? Is that radical? I don't know. Like, to them it's not radical. To them it's not radical, but that's my understanding of it, right? What you are saying, dude, that's ISIS? Well, I think that the difference between ISIS and the rest of Islam is that ISIS thinks that they should be fighting a war right now to subjugate everybody under Sharia law, whereas the rest of Muslims just think that naturally, as Muslim populations grow, that they will, right? Like what makes it radical is when you start advocating violence to cause that thing to happen, right? Just like almost all Christians believe that there will be like an end of the world, but it would be radical to start violence to try and make that end of the world happen, right? Oh, there you go. Caleb says Christianity says the same thing. Oh, I wish I could find it. Like there really are. You just have to understand. I wouldn't call them radical, but there are definitely beliefs in the Islamic faith that directly contradict the foundings of the United States. Like, that's just. Wait, why did we bring that up? See, now I'm worried NASDAQ trader went quiet. Yeah, I think HF is right. I don't know why we got on that topic, how we got into that one. I mean, I kind of brought it up, but that was just because I was still bringing up this point that it was like to understand politics, you do have to understand that Republicans have religious beliefs and want their religious beliefs reflected in their government to some extent, and liberals are kind of almost anti-Christian at this point and want their anti-Christian sentiments reflected in the government policy. And that's the most that you need to know to try and predict what things they might try and do. Biden is meeting with Manchin and Sinema today. Okay, that is good to know. I'm wondering here. Okay, so we're coming up. I need to end our poll when we come, but you guys say 14 of you. Well, maybe not everybody has voted. So if you haven't voted in the poll, there's 26 people watching right now. Vote in the poll. But it looks like you guys are saying 57% of you believe that we will move up, and 43% of you think down. I'm kind of looking at the treasuries, and it looks like they've traded quite a bit in here. In this instance, I think maybe you could call it value, because I never really necessarily saw a hole or anything like that. It just looks like both sides are okay with transacting here, or maybe it was they moved down and this is where they balanced back out, right? NASDAQ trader says, I just don't care. Okay. Oh, I really don't know. Okay. Anyways, but I'm thinking, if the E-mini did another one of them, head fake plummet down sort of things, then probably the treasuries will be right back up there again. I recommend not trading that top. Yeah, I'm probably at the moment, I don't know if I have a good enough setup for a trade. Like, one of the issues that I have is that I would much rather try and go long and try and take a swing and try and hold it forever. Whereas with a short, like, the amount that we can continue to go down in rates, I think, can only go so far. Expect some fights. Yeah. I don't know, man. Yesterday, the E-mini put up some fight, but it just kept getting buried over and over and over again. It was really like watching it late into the day. Usually there's like that panic bid the last 30 minutes and all that sort of thing. Like it's not happening. And the way that the sentiment has been going and everything, I kind of suspect that we will continue to be down, if not sideways, until Friday. That's kind of what it looks like to me. That's what I was saying with my TikTok that I made yesterday. It was like the market had every reason to celebrate, and then they still got buried. Now, let's check our assets and see if anything has moved. So it looks like that off of that last news that gold took a hit, as did the 6J, of course. Bitcoins haven't really moved. Oil kind of on the way up. It looks like that the Dow has the most interest, Dow and gold at the moment. Corn is up 1.35% today, too. Copper up 1%. And after all that, did the yield curve change here? Well, the 2 and 10 changed, but not really the 5 and 30s. Okay, let's see here. Here, actually, I just read these all.
HF says China's economy is in the midst of a mid-year stumble. HF says that was confirmed Wednesday when data showed retail sales growth slumped in August and both industrial output and investment also slowed. HF says the big question: is this a hiccup for an otherwise healthy economic recovery, or is the unrelenting regulatory crackdown taking a toll? HF says the answer: it's a bit of both.
Yeah, I think so. I think that what we're seeing right now is like the Delta variant did have a negative impact on the worldwide economy, and we just weren't really able to price it in until we came to this seasonal down period for markets. Because you'll note, by the way, that, you know, even though it seems like it's been unrelenting selling, in the larger scheme of things, it's a pretty mild decline. So I get concerned about mild declines because those are the sorts of things that can just continue going and going and going and going. But at the same time, that it suggests that the market is like trying to price in something and that it's not just panicking, right? And that maybe the thing that they're pricing in is not like the end of the world. But it certainly could be a problem if things continue. So like I think that the concern right now is that coronavirus will continue to spread to other places in China, which is almost certain now at this point, and that the Chinese government will continue to crack down, and that will cause problems on growth. There's also this issue with the housing market in China. It does look like Evergrande is going to go under. So that's a big problem over there too. And on top of all of that, the Chinese government is trying to stay tight. They've basically been saying that we're not going to go easy again. That we're gonna have like a Volcker moment of sorts, and which is going to be really weird. Will China stay tight and the United States not taper, and so the United States keeps printing money? Then what happens then? No sight of serious bids yet. I find it really interesting that the treasuries will trade here and the micro yields won't. And it feels to me like the micro yields are a little bit more stable and reliable. And perhaps that means that the treasuries will move outside of what the cash market is saying. Okay, so here's the open. Decent buy on the open, apparently. Oh, you know what? I probably screwed up my session templates on these, so I probably should. Yeah, let's fix that. This is ES. ES session. CME indexes. There we go. Well, we're still at AO's kind of price that he pointed out the other day. Okay. Now we got a better idea of what the range is. Pretty mixed volume on the open so far, but it does look like sell. Now, I really like it to reset when because the volume and positions from the overnight don't really matter. That there's so much positioning that happens here in this first hour that everything before it is kind of irrelevant in my opinion. Yep, I can see it happening. It is down. I'd say that the volume is still kind of like normally all of this morning action would be far outweighed by what's over here, but how's it? Oh, you know what? I haven't done that since that one day. By the way, our discussion regarding scalping got me some coding ideas and backtesting. One idea the strategy analyzer said I could have made over one. What? Wow, really? Max Drawdown was prepping. Oh, by the way, my robot has been taking trades. How's it doing here? He's lost $250. That's no good. He's doing the right thing, though. So for that, he's going to miss this short. Okay, so that's a little bit more downside. Oh, we got to end the poll, by the way. You guys said 60% up. So that's, you're stuck with it. Y'all said up. Are you gonna embarrass me again? We better hope the E-mini goes up now. Don't we have options expiration this Friday? Yes. During last month's ES was weaker without the flows from options. Yes. And once it's like it kind of starts to decline going into it, and then the next week it's like really bad at the beginning, and then they miraculously recover. See, Caleb, I wasn't sure if you were the same Caleb that was arguing with me in that comment section. Because I felt like you were getting closer. It's sad that Jay's going to miss this short. Well, maybe they're going to overdo it. He'll go and buy it. So you know what? As another thing I'm noticing is that it seems like the stream has been doing better this week, yeah? So I was doing an experiment to see if showing ads made a difference in how many people viewed the stream and everything. And when I was switched between them before, I couldn't tell a difference. But this week I'm on, it's an off week, and it seems like it is having an impact. Oh, you know what? I forgot. Isn't today John's birthday? Was he banned from the channel yesterday? No. But what might have happened is he might have come in at the very beginning when it was unlisted. I don't know. That's actually really weird that it, like, you tried joining and it straight up wouldn't let you. That's a little weird. Yes, it is. It's John's. He's not here today, but I haven't seen John in a while. I hope he's okay. But it's his birthday. So happy birthday, John. I'm stumped at the moment I spent the evening pursuing that strat. Yeah, like here's the thing, Caleb, is like when you think about it, it's gonna be like a really no duh sort of like it won't seem like the thing is if somebody tells you it doesn't seem like a significant revelation, right? John, the one who hosts the stream sometimes, yes. Yes, that one. Which, by the way, I was checking, and it looks like he's a moderator on Futures.io now, which I was like, how did that happen? I was surprised. I didn't think that he would do that. That he would want to do that. Okay, so that's interesting. E-mini's looking pretty sad here. But the treasuries aren't actually really reacting. Yeah, happy birthday, John, wherever you are. Oh, yeah, so anyways, let me come back over here. See, maybe it's that the views on the stream don't matter. Like, not like that the views on the stream don't matter, but maybe it's just too difficult for me to look at this chart and see them because they're still just a small part of the overall viewership. He strikes me as a very quiet guy. Yeah, I don't know why he didn't feel like speaking a whole lot during the streams. It was like he felt like it wasn't his place or something. Or he just didn't want to. I'm not going to read that. I just saw something on Twitter that I thought was kind of weird. But it's not what we're talking about. So don't worry about it. I'm still trying to think of what's the best way I can kind of give a hint to Caleb. Are you trading in NinjaTrader? Or sorry, are you programming in NinjaTrader, Caleb? Yeah, NinjaTrader 8. Okay, so let's think about this. So we were saying you can only use the most recent data point. So in any of these arrays, you can only use 0. So you're on the right track. And so then you started to think about what are all of the different data series that I have access to, right? So we were saying, well, there's the open, high, and low series, but that is including past data. So we don't want to use those. We only want to use the close of 0. And then you mentioned some other things. So those would be like bringing other indicators in. So like we could bring another indicator in that would tell us like the current imbalance of the book or doing some sort of calculation on the book, right? Or maybe trying to calculate a very, very short term velocity sort of indicator. That's like bringing in, so you can bring in another data series from an indicator, right? There's another way that you can bring a data series, and what's the other data series that you can bring into an indicator? Did you notice that all opens are going down? Yeah, of course it did. Although I would say we're still not done here yet. I mean, most of these days we would be up at this point, and then the downside would start, right? There's another data series you can bring in. Price, volume, no. Volume is a good one though. I have to say, from all of my study, running a statistical analysis on the orders themselves seems to be more effective than running a statistical analysis on the price. Nope, not time frame, because we're trying to only use current data, or we're trying to only use current data. It is kind of a trick question to some extent. There's a bid and ask, yeah, that's good. Those are, but that's not it, Because doing bid and ask would be like bringing in another indicator, right? Like I'm trying to give you a hint from a programmatic perspective. It's something that's built into NinjaTrader, another data series that's built into NinjaTrader that you can add in that is not an indicator. What was the question? So we're talking about how to do market making and how to trade without using past data, right? So we're trying to think about what are all of the different pieces of data that are actually available to you when you're programming a NinjaTrader strategy that you could potentially use, with the limitation that that piece of information can only be a current piece of information. So we identified that you can use the current price, you can use volume, and you could create indicators that would tell you things about like the level 2 and the order flow. That would be like current information, right? But I'm saying there's another piece of data that you are allowed to bring into your indicators and strategies that NinjaTrader has provided for you. And when you get it, you're going to be like, oh, Seth, that's so dumb. But it's a big deal. That's what makes the realization so important, right? Is because all of a sudden you realize there's this huge space, this huge 3D space where there's edges, and there's all these little stars out here where there's edges, all these little stars over here and over here, and you're all looking right here. And all of the stars are actually behind you. Kind of watching. So when we moved down, I was saying, hey, maybe the treasuries could come back up here, but the ES has been fairly bearish here, and the treasury actually seems to be more prone to wanting to go down here. Or wanting to continue going down as maybe the ES recovers. It's not time. No, it's not time. Thought experiment that's helped me the most is imagining prices in an elevator operated by the market makers who make the most profit by testing how people really feel at each level and sub levels. I'm not so sure it's that, to be honest with you, man. Like the thing that I'm starting to realize more and more, and I mean it depends on the instrument and the players and everything else like that.
Says could come back up. Yes, please. Traders, could you help the likes come up? Thanks.
Thanks, Gwen. No, it seems to me that like let's just talk about stocks. Like you're a retail trader that's gonna go and buy a stock. Like I don't think that most people, maybe we do because we're trying to be more sophisticated about it, but I don't think that most retail investors come in and say, well, if this stock reaches X price, then I want to buy it per se. No, like they come in that day, they've already done the research, they like the company, and they've already decided in their mind that they're going to buy that company. And it's just a question of what price they can actually get, right? I think that that's a major factor behind why price is inelastic, because the price being too high or too low doesn't change people's the fact that people have money to invest and that they're going to put it in the company that they think is a good company or whatever the deal is. So when you try and apply that to like the overall index, then it starts to become really, really clear. Like what's going to affect the overall index is are people going to put money to work today or not? So from that perspective, all of these price levels that we put so much significance on probably don't matter as much as we think they do. What matters is how much money is actually going to come into the market today. Yeah, there you go. Like the Russell, small account will say this is in range, but from big money point of view, it's all noise. The market maker's job is to stir things up to find buyers and sellers to accommodate large orders. Exactly. Prices. What is the answer to the trivia? They're still trying to figure it out. Think, Lucas. Here's how I think I can get Lucas to do it. Okay, say you're going to make a strategy that trades the treasuries. Are you going to only look at the 10-year? I mean, most of my strategies that I do, that's what I've done. But when you're scalping, do you just look at the 10-year? Yeah, I know what to look for. Yeah, see, it was specifically something tried to gear towards Caleb. So now I'm trying to gear it towards you. China's invented digital money will be all in around the world like remove fiat. No, they do have it out there, but nobody wants to use it because nobody trusts the Chinese government. You know what I really need for NinjaTrader to offer relative performance for correlations. They actually kind of, I got something like that now, kind of, but. Jake Sherman says the meetings with Manchin and Sienna with Biden will be this evening, so we probably won't get anything like that. Nah, the charts get all messed up. No, I think that you can use their newer but there's like an FX correlation board. So like they're kind of moving towards it, but the thing that I'm finding though is that Seth, do you have a subscription for your stream? Maybe you can put that in the description after the stream is done. Do I not have it in there? Because I do. If you click the join button below, you can join the channel for a monthly subscription. I don't know the difference between official fiat and popular. They are the same. They're basically the only difference is one is directly supported by a central bank and the other is not. Right? Oh, okay. So the subscription, it gives you access to the elite indicator package. Let's come back and edit the description here a little bit. I'm not ignoring your question. Still some. So think about what I just said to Lucas. If you're gonna trade interest rates, are you only gonna look at the 10-year? While you were talking, subtitle text is recorded and you paste after the stream is done. Oh, I've been noticing that it's been doing that automatically for some videos now. Okay. Does NinjaTrader have a VIX data series? So it you can bring it in, right? You could go and you can bring in any instrument that you want, right? You do add data series, and then instead of close of 0, you'll use closes of, and then which data series you want, and if it was the one that you added, then it would be closes of 1, and then you would use 0, right? I'm withdrawing my like until I hear the answer. Well, the only thing that I'm aware of, Lucas, is that if you come in here, there's an FX correlation board, and there are some indicators that are built in, and I think that you can even go into the market analyzer, and you could go and you could add correlation with another instrument. But kind of the thing that I was going to say is that like correlation as like a statistical indicator might not tell you what you want to know. There you go. Caleb says, sure, closes of 1, 0. That's it. That's what I'm talking about. So here's what you could do. You could say, here's the 10-year and here's the 30-year. And here's the average spread between them. The 10-year or the 30-year has moved down to 164.02, and the 5-year has moved down to 187. Well, the 10-year should be at 125. So I'm going to put out a limit order, and I'm going to hit into this. Well, I shouldn't hit into it right now. I should wait until maybe it's pulling a little bit, but if it pulls, I'm going to hit into this, right? Because it seems like the 10-year is higher than what it should be relative to the 30-year, right? Now, in making that determination, I used all current information, didn't I? Yeah, it's unfortunate Rhythmic does not provide market internals. You have to use CQG. Lucas says, but you are arbitraging there. Yes, that's exactly it. Caleb says, yeah, makes sense for treasuries. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I could go over here and I could try doing the same thing with the S&P 500, right? Now is when I would want to hit into it. So now we're all good. I would hit into it. Should have a target out there. Yeah, I was thinking that's arbitrage. Well, it is arbitrage, but it maybe it isn't necessarily, but it's a little bit more complicated than arbitrage, right? Because we know that they could potentially be diverge a little bit because of a short-term supply and demand and so forth, right? But that's exactly what Gary is talking about. But it's not like a straight arbitrage, because like a straight arbitrage would really be like you have a straight calculation and then of exactly what this thing should be worth, and then you stack and pull and whatnot, right? He's taking a more of a nuanced human approach to it, but that can highlight to you a situation where maybe you have an opportunity. So here in this particular one, I'm not liking this trade so far because I'm not getting the volume that I want. I would like to have enough volume that I should be able to get in and out really easily. And having to have 5,000 trade into me at 12.5 is difficult too. But these are the sorts of things that according to my understanding, he talks about. How can I know mathematically the curve of the speed of market orders at the open? It's a good question. So generally speaking, what you're going to see is like if this ticks down 1, this is going to tick down 2, and this is going to tick down 3 to 4. I don't think Gary advocates for trading correlations. Well, I think what it's gonna be more like is, so let me get into the correlation thing now. So here's the problem that I have with correlation as a statistic, is that 2 instruments could be correlated, but you would not see it in their price, right? So again, we understand that price is inelastic and that markets are inefficient. So how much an instrument is going to move is heavily dependent on the liquidity situation at the time and the amount of orders that are coming into it, and whether those orders are market orders or limit orders and all that sort of stuff. Okay, so this one doesn't look like it's going so well. I will hold it to the stop, but if it goes, I will just stop outright. Wasn't a serious trade anyways, but okay. But you definitely will see these situations where it's like, oh yeah, this moved up. Like I saw a bunch of buy orders here and I saw a bunch of sell orders here. It's just this one moved up a bunch and this one didn't budge because the liquidity held it. You get what I mean? So like there can be a correlation and you might see sporadic volume come through at the same time, and it won't show up when you try and run a statistical analysis on correlation of price, right? So that's where I feel like you should definitely watch for correlations. I seem to know how to watch for those correlations when I'm watching the DOM, but I'm not 100% sure how to programmatically signify that, because it's, you have to say, I saw a volume come through in certain directions in both instruments at the same time, and then the rest of the time it was not a significant point, and that's just noise, You look at correlations, but you don't trade them. Well, when I'm trying to take the scalp, I am kind of trying to do that. I am trying to look for a spot where I can see, okay, there's this price seems out of whack. That's what I was doing with the NQ too, actually. So if I come back and do it, right, it's like we're moving up, right, like right there. I should buy that. It's going to come back up, see? Now they're all kind of moving down, so don't necessarily want to take it anymore. Missed it, but oh, you got to be fast. Okay. Did get it. Oh, I didn't have the how are we doing it? Oh, here it is, NQ. Okay. There we go. Cool. Probably what I should do is just hold a limit order out here in the direction that I want it to. Nope, too far. That's hard. Just because the 10-year is a slow market doesn't mean you have to place your orders on the bid offer. No, it's true. I mean, there's a real advantage if you can take it as she goes. Clearly, though, there's too much there at 13 right now for me to be messing with it the way that I was. There you go. See? It can be done. How can I do a marketable? So one of the things that's really cool about the Jigsaw DOM NASDAQ trader is that if you bring this over here, so Do you see how there's these different buttons? So I have stop, limit, stop, limit. If I put a volume in the SV there, then it will turn into a stop, limit, volume. And then there's auto. And what does auto do? Auto says if I click here, it will put a limit order. But if I click here, it will be a market order. And so it dynamically adjusts whether it's a limit order or a market order based on where I click. And then the same thing over here. And then if I click the bid over here, it automatically knows that it should be a stop order. Almost every other platform that I've looked at, it's not that simple. Like if you want to do a stop order, you have to push a different key for it to be a stop order. So that's what's so great about Jigsaw, is that then this kind of like fast clicking, so you don't have to think about that sort of stuff. You just have to think about, is that the right price? Click. Because they pull liquidity out like it's, yeah, they really do. But think about that. Why do they do that? Because they're watching something else, probably watching the cash market and deciding what they want their best bid and ask to be like for that. So that's why very often if there's a currency correlation, like if the 6J was moving down and all of a sudden we'll move down and it's like they pulled and it's like, well, they were trading so much volume over here. How come all of a sudden they pull it here? Well, it's because of the correlation. It's because that's what their arbitrage. Can I set a trailing limit order? So in Jigsaw, you can set your strategy. So I set NQ as my strategy. And in the strategy templates, you can do like trailing stops and leading targets and so forth. Caleb says, so where the tick price is in relation to the bid ask. Yeah, right. Like that's another point here, is that I can come in and I can see where the instruments are in relation to each other, and I can see the inside. So like, let's just say, for instance, that, well, our tendency has been to move down, and the 5-year, or well, the 30-year is kind of leading, really, right? So if I come down here to 164 and that 1479 has pulled and there's only like 50 on there, what do you think is the most likely thing to happen, right? Most likely thing to happen is that they start trading into 164 even. And hopefully they just trade into it and it stacks almost immediately and it goes, right? But what if I come over here in the 10-year and I see that 14.5 is the low price here and there's some volume going into it? Well, then I'm thinking I'm going to put my limit order out there because I'm going to get a fill, and the probability is that we're going to go lower, right? Because I know based on the correlation that, and which one is leading and everything, that, right, that is, it's kind of an arbitrage. But you can see, like here's the most succulent way to pose this question. And I understand why Gary doesn't pose it this way, because that kind of like gives up the whole method, right? And it removes the mystery from it. But how do you trade with current information? Know what it's actually worth. Just know what it's actually worth. Know that the 10-year is worth 133.14.5 right now. And if it's not at 133.14.5, if it's at 133.14, then I want to buy there at 14 in order to take my profit at 14.5, which is the correct price, right? That's the way you do it. Now, there's disadvantages to that, right? It's really hard, and you have to do it in the right market. I think it's really hard to do in the 10-year. I'm not too sure that you can be consistently profitable doing it in the 10-year. I mean, I've tried and I've had some success with it, but I'm certainly not reliable with it. Can I set a trailing limit order that follows the price if not filled and then goes to market that eats on the best bidder ask on the other side? On Ninja? Well, you could program that, I think. I'm not sure I 100% understand what you want, but you can certainly, I mean, you can do just about anything with NinjaTrader programming at that point. It has no sense to trade one lot NZN that way, my 2 cents. I think you're right. Like, I can do it with trading up multiple lots, but just trying to do it with one lot is too hard. Well, that's where I come back to, like, the other thing is that I think that retail traders can find a real advantage in position trading. When you only have to do one lot, if you're just going to position trade one lot, you can actually find some real inefficiencies in the market, right? It's not a built-in functionality. You're right, Caleb. I've never seen anything built in that kind of does that. That says, oh, I'm not filled, so I'm just going to click into it. At what point does it decide to chase, though? I don't know. Lucas says, yeah, for that I recommend John Grady. Yeah. Well, I recommend John Grady because then you understand the games they play. So I think I'm going to try and put an order out there. Just kind of test the waters here. Actually, let's do it this way. Let's come over here into the ES and okay. I don't know, off of the open here so far, I'd say the action has been a little mixed, but the ES is kind of looking a little shaky right now. I see you right there trying to get filled at 29.5. There he is. Hit it. No? You don't want it anymore, huh? Okay. I've not even been able to see the open yet. Tick replay is taking forever. Same indicators as yesterday. Yeah. Now, so here's another thing that I'll tell you, right? When I worked for Goldman Sachs, how did they determine what the correct price was? They were literally like going through the balance sheet of that company and saying, let's model every part of their revenue flows and try and determine the fair value price based off of that. And of course, they know that there are just going to be situations where you'll get order flow that contradicts that. And that's when they want to take fills. And you just have to account for the probability of informed trading. That is, am I seeing flow that is strong enough and directional enough to make me think that maybe people in the market know something that I don't, and I don't actually want to take those fills, and so I should pull my orders? That's how it works. And really, when you think about it, if you have the ability to trade that, wasn't that exactly what you would want to do? Because otherwise, you're stuck trying to analyze past data, and that might be unreliable. Or you might be stuck doing what I do, which is trying to speculate and make a prediction, which can work, but it has some big disadvantages to it, right? But you still learn a lot from those things. Like, for instance, trying to scalp, like really think about it. Going in here and just saying, I saw a pattern here on the S&P 500 and it did this, and that means that it should go to here. Like that seems like a really dumb trade to me. Like, I just don't see how that's going to work. Like, how can you do that without saying, okay, but the NASDAQ is doing this, and the dollar index is doing this, and the interest rates are doing this, and right? Oh, look, I missed the trade. Maybe I should have just hit into it. I'll take previous hard data over trying to speculate. Well, trying to speculate should be based off of new current data, though, too, right? Like, I just got a piece of news, and that means that this many orders are going to come into the market based on my experience and whatnot. Like, my whole point is, I'm not going to take previous hard data unless I am able to empirically prove that it matters. That's the issue, is that you've got, like, again, there's like this huge field of stars where you're trying to find edge, and all the stars are over here, and you're kind of sitting here looking out this way in this spot where, like, all of the stars that were out there to mine, they already mined them all. And there's a spot over here where, like, the stars regenerate. Oh, is my robot going to take a trade now? Okay. Curious. I think he's going to get screwed, but let's take profits. That was a good speculation, wasn't it? That I made in. It's too bad that I didn't get it on my live account there. They didn't film me. Is that no? It was an ES trade. I traded it in the ES. It's $40 though on ES. MES is pretty good. That was 8 points. Probably almost got 10 points, but here's another point that I think you should try and take away from the conversation that we had today, right? Any kind of piece of information that I can pull in that other people don't have can potentially be an advantage, right? I think that if you're going in and you're doing, like, let's just say you take a machine learning algorithm and you say, okay, you look at the price in the S&P 500 and you do all of your machine learning fancy pants stuff and you start trading off of that. I think that the algorithm that does that is also factoring in what interest rates and the dollar index are doing is going to have an advantage, right? And if you can go and you can find a piece of data that, like, other retail traders, like, simply don't have and don't look at, that is a factor, then that's going to be huge. That's huge. For instance, like, maybe one potential source that I know of is sentiment metrics from social media, right? That's a good one that has been shown to have some edge, right? Now all of a sudden it's like, we can take an empirical approach to this, and we don't have to rely on some pattern, because everything that we know about the market suggests to us that patterns aren't going to be very effective. You're seriously scaring me when you say machine learning. Well, I haven't programmed the machine learning algorithms yet. We should probably try and do them here with Jay. I think that the next step for Jay is to start applying some machine learning to it, but I picked a good spot to take a profit though, didn't I? How did he do that? Crying emojis. I'm really sad that I didn't get filled. I would have only wanted 10 points on that. I don't know if I want it if they come back up. Because like the E-mini is kind of stalled out early. Machine learning is going to rely on pattern analysis. I think you're right. That's what the thing is well, I would think that you wouldn't pursue that. It's not like I wouldn't pursue. I mean, I pursue any idea that I can come across that seems reasonably interesting. I'm just telling you from my experience, like the more current your information is, the better your chances are of making a good determination. And I want to be clear, it's not like you can't like incorporate past information. I mean, like the thing is that all information is past information in reality. The instant that it hits your screen, it already happened. You should remember that too. All information is past, right? But the longer it's been, the less relevant it is. At what point does that information start to become completely irrelevant? I would say that when it's price, maybe it was never relevant to begin with. But when it's orders, maybe that information is good for a few seconds or a few minutes, right? So, I don't know. It does seem to me like there are some statistical anomalies that you can pull out of looking at the orders themselves. I mean, like, look at this come back. Let's see if Jay gets his target or what he does with it, or if he ends up eating it. He could end up eating it, but Jay took a reversal there, and he's up on it. Lucas says depends on the perspective you're looking at, man. Like, really, for HFT, yes, all information is past information from that perspective, since they operate on a different realm than we do. Yeah. It's a fascinating thing to consider. Even what you see with your eye is historical. Yeah. But see, that's where I'm getting like here. What I'm trying to, the question that I'm getting at is really this: if we say that technical analysis is ineffective, why is it ineffective? Is it because of the incorporation of past data? Is it because of the analysis of patterns? Or is it because of the thing that we're looking at, price, is just has no predictive value, right? Which is why I come back to the inelastic theory of markets, because to me, the inelastic theory of markets suggests that the thing that you're looking at just doesn't matter. That it's orders and predicting orders that matter. Orders move markets, not price. VIX being elevated changes everything, because it certainly matters. Well, so the inelastic theory of markets and the theory that orders move price would state that because the VIX is high, people are paying a premium for protection, and that can lead to more orders in the market, and therefore you get a different market regime because of that, right? NASDAQ trader says price is the result, not the cause. There you go. My argument was that I bet you can find a greater than 50% edge using past data. Well, okay, so here's the problem with that, Caleb. And this was the thing that I was trying to say to you in the comments before. I think you can find a 50%. I have found things that when I backtest them, they are 50 to 51% edges. I've found those using price only. Okay. I'll give you an example. Euler has this Fourier series analysis that kind of adjusts to it. And if you combine that with whatever other kind of setup that you want. Like, let's say you're doing MACD crossover, and then you say, as soon as when I get my signal, I'll wait for the Fourier series analysis to give me the next optimal entry, and you take that. That seems to have a slight edge, right? But how much of a difference do you really need for it to be statistically significant at that point, right? Because if you say you have 1,000 trades, that's only like a difference of 10 trades. It's nothing. Like that could flip around on you in one day. That could flip around on you in one day. So in reality, 52%, it's not enough for you to really know that it's statistically significant and for it to be reliable for you as a retail trader. Unless you're like getting a lot of signals every day. And you have a lot of data to back it up. And even then, that's still kind of on the margin of, does that actually make up for your costs and everything? Right? So that's the problem with that one. And then when I get down into it, I've had a very difficult time finding anything that when you have a large enough sample size, that it gives me anything better than 52% using price only. Now, when I start using order flow, then I'm able to get into some things where I'm like 55, 60%. In fact, with Jay right now, the thing that's unique about Jay is that I actually have something where his profits are a little bit bigger than his losses, and he has a win rate above 50%. But we know that the back testing with order flow is a little bit can be flawed. So let's see how he does on live, or on live data rather. Yeah, Caleb says, well, I'm certainly not saying that you should look for a 51% edge. I wouldn't trade on a 51% edge. I'd need something higher than that. Yes. 52% edge with a lot of signals per day will only feed your broker. Yeah, it seems like that I would really need 55%, right? And like here's the way, like in NinjaTrader, Caleb, when you're looking at it, look at the probability statistic, because the probability statistic is telling you how consistent are those results, and thus how likely is it to continue into the future. And I think you're going to find that if you're making profits, that it's always like a 1% probability. You know, like getting that to even 10% is super hard. Unless it's a loss, and then you can find a strategy that 100% of the time it's going to lose. but yes. So then we go back and we say, okay, so I could find an edge. It needs to be more like a 55% edge. So how am I going to find a 55% edge? Are there places in price where I could analyze it and I could find an edge, right? A 55% edge with a large enough sample size, right? So a lot of the time people will do these really short-term signals where it's like you need like tens of thousands of samples to verify that, guys. And really like 10,000 for any of them would probably be what I would, 5% edge off of 10,000 is like 500 trades. The difference of 500 trades, right? Maybe then at that point we might be able to say that it's statistically significant. Sure. Okay. But here's the thing. Where do you find that? And then that's where I go back to the price is inelastic. Well, price is inelastic kind of suggests that it's not worth looking for, even though we can admit that it could potentially exist. The fact that prices are inelastic suggests to us that if we're going to find a technical edge like that it's more likely to be found from analyzing the orders rather than analyzing price. And that's where I'm at right now. I basically stopped looking at ones that use price. But Well, and to that point, so this whole thing was about machine learning, right? So like I've read a number of studies about machine learning and a couple of studies that seem to make claims about using machine learning and having some profit. We'll see. I bet you that when I start doing it with my own metrics and stuff, that I'll probably find some problems. But maybe we'll do. Which study should I read? So it's called The Inelastic Markets Hypothesis by Gabiax and Koijin. There's also a more recent paper that complements it by Jean-Philippe Bouchard. And you should be able to find these, like, if you search on SSRN and whatnot. Oh, by the way, I haven't searched for new studies in a while. Should we maybe... I always do this on my own time, but now I'll do it on my own time. I should stay focused here. Still got 30 minutes left. I still kind of wish I was taking a trade here in the 10-year, but it looks like I missed the one opportunity. What did the machine learning? Well, I've read a number of machine learning studies that suggest an edge from machine learning, but you got to be careful from scholarly studies that say, here we use this strategy and here's how the strategy worked. I think you got to be skeptical about those, because I've had a lot of times where I read things like that and then I went and I tested them and that showed that they didn't really understand trading it. That makes sense. If that makes sense. Like they were data snooping and they didn't realize it, or there's a fat tail on it they didn't know about, or that sort of a thing. This is still worth it doing, because I've never programmed with machine learning algorithms, and it's becoming more and more of a thing, and it really is something that I should be learning. What I did? So this past week, we were doing some infrastructure work, and they wanted to use Kubernetes. Kubernetes is freaking weird, man. I've never seen a computer technology that the practitioners of it seem so confused on how to use it. Like, it seems like on its face that it should be something simple, but then in practice it's like really hard to use. Like, it's really... So it seems like understanding Kubernetes, you can make a lot of money. You can make a lot of money doing Kubernetes, I think, if you're really truly an expert in it. So that's why we wanted to learn it. But then I went through and I did it, and it was like, well, for what we do, pretty simple for what we do. Like, it doesn't get complicated until you're like constantly adding and removing capacity and managing all that sort of stuff, which, like, if I was working at Google would be a thing, but where we don't have those capacity problems at the time, and so Kubernetes doesn't really benefit us. So I was all like ready to really dive into Kubernetes and become an expert on it, and I did a course on it and everything, and I come back at the end of that and I'm like, that didn't really help me much. Maybe if I went somewhere else. What do you do after the stream? We do development work for site reliability engineers at a healthcare exchange. Is basically what I do for my day job. That's like probably way too specific, but yeah. So site reliability engineering is like those are the guys that like they deploy the application to the servers and manage it and fix things when they're broken. And my team is primarily about giving alerts, like when something is wrong, and managing those systems. So there's a lot of development work to be done around there. Although I expect at some point that we're going to finish some of that work and they're going to change us around a little bit, and it will be more site reliability engineering then. than just insights. But there is structure within a 1 minute may help you with controlling risk. Here's what I want to know, live action. It seems to me that if I'm going in and I'm trading multiple contracts, that if I put all of my contracts in at the price that I want, and I take all of my contracts out at the price at my target, that will maximize my profits. But maybe that can be hard and things and so on and so forth. So maybe I want to take multiple contracts. Maybe I take them all here and I take them off at multiple rungs. Okay. So what I can do is I can split those up and say each one of those, each lot is a separate trade. And what are the probabilities of each one of those scenarios happening? And therefore, here's what your profit distribution looks like, sort of a thing. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I haven't gone through and done the math behind that, because it seems to me like I can manage my risk better. I can manage the risk better. But I've never seen anything that really gives me like the mathematical model in terms of like how much you should do. I don't know. I feel like that there's some edge in there that could be really useful to retail traders that we haven't found yet. Trade today. I don't think I'm going to take a trade today. It doesn't look like I'm going to take a trade today. It looks like I missed my trade already. I missed both of my trades already. I really could have bought. It wasn't the rise in rates wasn't that fast. I could have bought on it, but here again, I keep running into these situations where it's like, okay, I see the news, but I'm not sure I can trade that news. And then it ends up going way further than I thought. So it looks like there's just a lot of volatility in the treasuries right now. Like they just want to move, maybe. Oh, live action saying trade. You mean the now? I think that if I was going to do more of a market making arbitrage approach, that I would need to find a different instrument. So I thought that, hey, maybe I could find those trades in the micro treasuries, right? But what I'm finding is that the micro treasuries is actually the worst of both worlds for that. It moves around a lot, yeah, but it's thick. So what that just means is when you lose, you can lose your spread very, very easily. And, right? You can lose your spread very, very easily, and it's difficult to get a good spot in line. I don't think I have OCD now. In fact, I'm probably the opposite of OCD. Like here's what I think is the difference between me and other people when it comes to trading. Most people, especially people that tend to get into trading, have this almost unwavering belief in themselves, because most people in our society today have not truly been tested. There are a lot of people out there that they just breeze through school, and they've never had any trouble accomplishing the things that they go and they set out to. But at the same time, getting through school is not that hard. And they've never been in a competitive environment and so forth. And so they come into this with this supreme confidence, and then they're devastated when they find out that actually this is crazy, crazy hard, maybe not even a fair game. And they say, oh, it's not worth it, and they give up, right? Whereas me, I'm ADHD. So I'm used to, always missing little details and making small mistakes. Saying something just kind of is spitballing and trying to go through all of the different ideas, and everybody else immediately, well, that's a dumb idea because of this reason. Like I immediately, why would you even consider that idea? Right? And so you're automatically start to question everything that you're doing. So I come in here and I think that I have a trade. Most people will go, oh yeah, like let's try it and put the risk on it. Whereas I go, no, I really shouldn't be putting risk on unless I'm really certain and I have the backing evidence to support that would be a good trade. Right? Five HTP nutrition for your brain. I've never heard of that before. You know what, though? I'm doing well. I think, I've had some periods where when I'm working out, it's like really hard and I don't feel like I'm making progress and I feel like it becomes hard to trade and so on and so forth. And this time around, I've really focused on trying to go to bed on time. For some reason, I wasn't very sleepy when I first went to bed, but I woke up, I still felt pretty good. And hey, Stickball, I was wondering where you were. Good morning. Anyways, so I've been like getting in bed at like 9 o'clock and then I'll read for a little bit and then go to sleep. And my wife has been starting to follow that with me and forcing the kids to go to bed early too. So I've been getting the sleep, and oh man, I think that's where the difference has been. It's like I'm building the strength, but because I'm getting enough sleep, my nervous system is able to recover, and it's making a big difference, I think. And I feel like if I continue to do this, that I should be able to hit some new PRs in my lifts very easily, in fact. But we'll see. We'll see. Maybe I get to those days and it's just not there. So probably my shoulders aren't as strong as they need to be. Probably my back's not as strong as it needs to be. I'm still very disappointed that I missed the trade. I mean, I even clicked it, right? Like, I was right there on being executed, but I should have just crossed over if I really wanted it. And I would have gotten the $10. It's okay. Now, on the other side of this, granted, he took a bad trade earlier, but Jay's got a pretty good winner right now. And it looks like if this uptrend continues, that he will probably continue to let it run, so he could get a really good win. Your difference is your approach is backwards. Complex first, you're right given. No, I don't think that's true at all, actually, live action. I think that when I started, it was very, very simple. Like, the thing is the complexity comes from necessity. It comes from trying many different people's, including people here on the stream, simple approaches, and then realizing the problems with them. I think that the reality really is that markets are just complicated. But probably the bigger thing is that price doesn't tell you very much, I think that's my pitch right now is like, what's the biggest lie in the market? Price is truth. Price isn't truth. It's one number now. A second from now, it's going to be a different number. Tomorrow, it's going to be a different number. According to all of the data that we've gone through, there's only a very, very slight autocorrelation effect that if it increases, it will continue to increase. And other than that, price tells you almost nothing. Because price is just the result. It's the orders that are actually moving things. Once you realize that, it opens up a whole different perspective. And it's backed up by empirical evidence. Some pretty good theory. I mean, it is still a theory, but if they continue to find backing evidence for the prices are inelastic theory of markets, it's going to significantly advance our understanding of financial markets, right? Could lead to some big changes in policy too, by the way. No, not just current price. Any current price, past price, future price. I'm of the opinion that it does not tell you much. I might be able to use the current price of something else to find a disconnect between the two and try and formulate a trade, but other than that, it doesn't tell me very much about what's going to happen. Orders could potentially. But I think that when you're looking at price, there's just too much noise to actually pull any data out of it.
Winston's mom says we're almost ready to wrap up Wednesday's trading. Do you have a title for today?
No, man, no, I don't. What should we put today's title at? We talked about a bunch of different things, didn't we? It was a pretty good stream. By the way, how are we doing? I was looking like viewers. Oh, yeah, we got up into the 32s, so we're getting back to what it used to be. I'm not sure if it's turning ads off or not. I have a hard time judging it. I think for now, I'm just going to turn them off on the live streams because I don't think it makes a difference. Oh, of course, you can't just go and use historical values to predict the future, right? Well, but if we agree on that, then the question is why? And the assertion that I'm making is that because price is the results and because markets are inefficient, that there's too much noise to pull out an actual usable signal out of it. I don't know. It kind of looks like that maybe the treasuries are just done for today. I don't know. Maybe we'll get a more significant move later. Title. We're talking about a title. Oh, the title should be ES didn't completely puke this time. ES didn't just completely puke on the open today. No. ES didn't completely puke on the open for once. There you go. It's your price versus account size versus institutional account size versus money supply. Really, the info is not price, but price versus range. They can't sell everything nor buy everything. Efficient risk escape. Well, yeah, but what I can do is if I know that their flow is going to come, right? What about game theory? Do you think the idea behind trading is to cooperate with the two-person zero-sum games, and it's proved by John 1? I'm not familiar with what you're saying, but I'll look that up. Free PDF. Ooh, what we got here for SSRM? The micro price, a high-frequency estimator of future prices. Oh, yeah. So here's, I'm already know what this is going to be. Okay. I define the microprice to be the limit of a sequence of expected mid-prices and provide conditions for this limit to exist. The microprice is a martingale by construction and can be considered to be the fair price of an asset conditional on the information in the order book. The microprice may be expressed as an adjustment to the mid-price that takes into account the bid-ask spread and the imbalance. The microprice can be estimated using high-frequency data. I show empirically that it is a better predictor of short-term prices than the mid-price or the weighted mid-price. Okay, so what they're getting into here is that for us in futures market, the spread is always one tick. But when you get into the stock market, it's this wide spread. And so there's this whole thing where they say, okay, what is the best way to estimate what the current price is? Is it to just do the middle price between the best bid and best offer? You know, like here, the middle between 20, well, it ticked up, but if there was a 2-tick spread, is it just the middle there or what? And this guy is saying that if you do the mid price and you take into account the bid-ask spread, that it is a better estimator of using high-frequency data. So for the people that are the market makers providing liquidity out here, it's useful. Yes, but for us trading in futures, it's not. People trying to fit markets into mathematical models, when for me, it's more like a social science. Well, you know, to the point, there are people out there doing quant trading, making money, right? It's just everybody makes this assumption that quant trading must mean, oh, I saw a head and shoulders pattern, it's going to go to here. I don't think that that's what they do. I think that it's more like, given these economic conditions and all of these other things that are going through, we should expect X thousand buy orders to come through into the market because of rebalancing of this. And I can front run that move because of that. I think that that's how they kind of work it. So I guess that's higher time frame, but. And yeah, you could, it kind of touches into some social things, but I don't know. I haven't seen behavioral finance translate to a profitable strategy, though I haven't looked that hard for that. I will rephrase that is there an advantage to considering your trades within the framework of game theory? I think that game theory could potentially be used to predict future order flows, yes. What if market making is the only working strategy in the long run? I would say that with the way that you're trying to predict future flows, yeah, the way that you're trying to predict future flows will always be changing. So you're never going to be able to say, hey, this is a strategy that just always works forever. I wouldn't say that market making always works in the long run. You can blow out using market making too. The way I trade is more like competitive sports, right? You can run statistics and models, but trading at competitive level requires something different. Yeah, but at least in modern day sports, to be competitive, you do have to incorporate statistics too, right? Insider trading is greater than market making, it sure is. You know, the thing is let's not say insider trading. What is the best way to trade? Like if we're really looking at all strategies, so on and so forth, what is the best trade to do? to be an informed trader. Is that possible? Maybe sometimes. Maybe sometimes. Being the informed trader is, I think, the best. Like in that dynamic, I would rather be the informed trader than the market maker, right? But that's too much to ask for a retail trader. We can't be market makers. Very few situations where we can do that, and it's very difficult, right? I think that probably for us, the better way of going about it is just not being a noise trader. Doing your best to try and avoid being a noise trader. Piggyback informed traders, sure, if you can identify them, which is hard because there's so much noise. But perhaps, that's probably something that happened in the pit, was that there were informed traders and there was people that knew who those informed traders were and they would follow them and make money that way. Probably, yeah. Best for me is proper expansion. It was... Oh, we still got a little bit of time. So one of the things that I did a lot of study on was bots was the one that turned me on to it, was multiple time frame analysis, and there was kind of a couple of bar chart patterns that they looked for, and this was from like the T3 guys or something like that. So I went through and programmed up a couple of these things. I found some interesting stuff in there, but ultimately I didn't think that there was really edge in it. But something that was interesting was that they always said, look, you guys are looking for a pattern, but you're always looking at the wrong pattern. And that when you really look at markets, the pattern that you're always going to see is that the ranges are just always expanding. So that will go and they will beat out the high, and then they will beat out the low, and then they'll beat out that higher high and beat out that lower low. And that if you look at it in the right way, that it always kind of goes like this. And if I come back and I look at that kind of behavior, and instead